Alright, so absolutely no audio testing this time, just going straight into the raw meat of it. I apologize for being gone again, especially so soon after I was like, oh guys, I'll post more. You see what had happened is that my AC had broken, and it was very bad. You see, I remember seeing it at 80, so I was at my grandma's house instead, and it'd be rude to record and do this sort of stuff when they're trying to get some sleep and things of that nature. So my house that I live in, on most days. I go to my grandma's house a lot. Mexican, we have a really close family structure. I lived in that house for 16 years. It was a multi-generational house. We only had 3 bedrooms, so a lot of us doubled up and stuff. I had, normal Mexican childhood. Anyway, my house was like 86 degrees one night. I wasn't there for it. I remember, like, I came back to get some clothes and stuff to shower at my grandma's. My house was 86 degrees at one night. Outside was colder, so I couldn't stay there. And then my grandma's house, so I didn't want to be a rude guest, even though they no they would have minded. Yeah, like dad's got work. Dad as in grandpa. My bio dad, don't know the guy. Met him like once, but it's whatever. My grandpa's my dad as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so dad's got work. Aunts have got some work. Uncle's got work. And I just didn't want to disturb them the slightest, so you know how it goes. Anyway, we're here today, and I haven't made any notes for this one, so we're gonna do it off the cuff, like those first, like 5. What are we doing today? We are doing fantasy races, and you know why? That's right, it's because of Orc City, baby. What? Fuck, let me pull up the post. You know the post. It's like the architect of its ruin failed to see it through, whatever the fuck. Orc City. I'm making fun of Orc City, but I am just talking about the fantasy races in general. Now, so let's preface this with a few things. First of all, I wanted to make like a video on my opinions about like film and stuff yesterday. Couldn't get my thoughts 2 days ago now because it's 12, so technically couldn't get my thoughts organized properly. I ended up scrapping it. Ranted to a friend and upset matter, but we're here. Um, so I hope whatever this ends up being will be good. Anyway, I'm trying to find more motivation to write. I'm in a bit of a slump right now, but that'll fix itself. I promise. Um, Anyway, so the fantasy races. Let's do the preamble. First of all, straighten your back, stretch, pace a little bit if you need to, drink water, shower, eat healthy, balanced meals. I want you to take care of yourself. If I can do it, you have no excuse. Reminder: sub 100 pounds eating disorder. You know what I had? I had a balanced meal. I had veggies. I had mashed potatoes, which are different than veggies because mashed potatoes is a bit unhealthier. Whereas like steamed broccoli and things like that, and some pork chops. Okay, I had a good meal last night. Why didn't you? Um, and I eat fruit, so you do that as well. Anyway, and don't forget to keep in, don't strain your eyes, things like that. Don't forget to keep in mind, I tend not to buy things. So whatever I ramble about is either stuff I read when I was way younger, right? Which was a cut above the reading level was supposed to be. I was very antisocial and friendless until like 6th grade. And even then, until like the end of 8th grade, didn't want to consider anyone friends. And then high school came around, and we just like bonded even more. So I'm weird. So books are my escape. That's why I care so much about writing and like the sorts of whatever. So keep in mind, I don't really buy things and just read what I can mostly find for free online. Royal Road, AO3, Space Battles, stuff like that. I'm missing a site for some fuck. I'm thinking about it, but I can't think about it. Oh well. But keep in mind, right, that whole preamble, and I'm merely focusing on fantasy. But this is a fantasy subject, so I mean that'll be my wheelhouse. Anyway, what? Let's start off with mentioning the typical fantasy races because obvious reasons to get out of the way what I'm going to be talking about. So I mean humans first of all, because humans are usually going to be your baseline, even though they arguably shouldn't be. But we'll get into that much later. So we're talking about humans. We're talking about dwarves, right? Elves and orcs, primarily those four. Now, you may be thinking, what about something like a halfling? What about some like beastkin, beast folk, etc.? What about demons like tieflings? I know you play D&D. Well, first of all, yes, I do play D&D. Second of all, I do not play tiefling. I want that on record right now. Demons are lame. Um, I primarily play humans and dwarves. Um, but that's besides the point right now. The point is, I'm obviously going to cover those sorts of things. I will cover halflings, I will cover gnomes, I will cover like myconids, insect folk. But the bulk of this video will likely, again, no notes, will likely end up being humies, elves, orcs, and dwarves. And this is because these are generally speaking the main four races in your settings. And then we'll have like a wild card race, and I'll get into what I mean when I say a wild card race in a bit. So let's start off with human. Me and you, we're humans. Unless this survives decades into the future when aliens are like interspersed with us. In which case, how's it going? I hope we're chill and are good trade partners, because that's what I want in the future. I want I want that for us. If you're a robot, unless you can eat and have like culinary experiences analogous or similar to humans, you're not people. You can be close, but you're not people, so we might want to start petitioning for that. Anyway, what was I on about? Right, humans. So humans will primarily in these sorts of stories be the baseline race, right? Or they'll be the boring race, or they'll be the jack of all trades. Most of them tend to go for the jack of all trades route, which I'm not the biggest fan of personally because it's lame, although I do like myself a good jack of all trades. That being said, I never play Bard because Bard is not good. I instead end up playing like usually Druid or Paladin because Paladin is just so good and Druid is, oof, it's amazing. I don't personally like doing action economy stuff, right? I don't usually do summon animals, but like the other Druid spells, they're so good for control. Oh my god, a good Druid is like your lifeline. A great Paladin ensures you won't need a good Druid. Anyway, so humans are generally speaking in these stories going to be the baseline or like the common denominator. Sorry, I just took a sip of water. I'm gonna take another one. I didn't get enough. So, what do I mean when I say humans will end up being the common denominator? Well, in most of the stories I read, well, it is just that humans are either the main protag or they're like the main race to deal with. I don't think Orc City, whatever that series is actually called, uh, follows this through line, but also it's not that great from what I've heard. So, I mean, I have no interest in seeking it out. You'll know it, right? Humans will either be like the Bretonnians from what are they called? The Bretonnians, whatever. The fucking Sigmar wielding Warhammer fantasy trope. And drink water again. A bit nauseous tonight, but my throat is healthy. That's part of why I scrapped the last videos because my throat was really bad. I think I ran out of I ran out of my meds. I don't know what it does specifically, but my throat's pretty acidic recently. It's going down. I'm getting used to it again, but like for a while it was bad. Thankfully, it's clearing up because today, later today, it's 12 in the morning. I should have a D&D session with some folks. Um, I asked way too late what time it is. Nobody's like awake to answer, but like in the morning they should see it because we planned this 2 weeks in advance. A week in advance, something like that. Anyway, so that's a good point. Humans in like D&D, because I will make comparisons to D&D I play. Humans are either variant human or human human. What do I mean by that? It's like the stock human. People just play variant human though because a free feat at level 1 is just fucking busted. But I don't mind the stock human. I take it sometimes just so I can stake it sometimes, where you get +1 in every stat, which is not super great, admittedly, but it's a start. That's because we have a tendency to either see ourselves as way greater or way lesser, which is why, you get the nihilists, which are assholes, and then you get the, uh, what is like humanity first motherfuckers, which are also assholes, and shit like that. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. The nuanced takes. Oh, would you believe that? I think that they're a good idea. Oh, yeah, the enlightened centrist in me, whatever, whatever, whatever. I don't give a shit about your Twitter politics. outside of making fun of Orc City, there is nothing more reviled than the orc. What is I on about? So, because of that, we'll usually end up going with either humans are the jack of all trades, specializing in nothing, dying quickly but reproducing fast, sort of idea. Or, and I don't know why it's this specifically, will be like mercantile. I'm not fully sure why. Um, I genuinely am not fully sure why. Um, what does cause that? Probably someone made a story at some point, as we're wont to do. But yawns at you. Stops yawning. That will be your general, in terms of fantasy stories, like default slot in human here. You have flavor A and flavor B. Flavor A is jack of all trades, quick at picking up skills, not the greatest. If you want the greatest, you go to dwarven craftsmanship. If you want the greatest spells, you go to elven schools. If you want the greatest food, you go to halfling cafes. But if you want a good cafe, library, blacksmith combo building, then you go to humans, which, fuck, that's actually kind of cool. Right? You can kind of see that. Obviously, the cafe library part would have to be soundproof, or the blacksmith area would have to be soundproofed, but like a little bit of magic, you can make that work. You can have it be a multi-generational household that like runs that, no? That'd be cool. But by the way, steal any ideas you want. You don't even really have to give credit. I'd prefer it, of course. Just on the I have a tendency to want to take a sip of water, credit things I see, because I gain nothing by restricting people's knowledge of what I consider to be good media. Now, I'm really bad at doing it right now. I wish now, looking back, I would have organized my thoughts better and wrote something down. But like when I write my things in general, usually I'll put like in footnotes at the bottom on my Google Docs, like what I got inspired from, and occasionally on my AO3 I'll like say shit, right? In the author's notes, which I love talking in. Which I wonder if that bothers people, but so far no one said anything about it, so like, yay? I don't know. Um, I, yeah, you should credit things, give them their due diligence, and share around the source material. We gain nothing by not doing so. Anyway, take a sip of water. Would it have worked the whole? Am I stupid? I think I'm stupid. Fuck. Sorry, I was just. Nah, doesn't matter. Anyway, so you get the two flavors. Either A, jack of all trades, and I mentioned before, like my whole like crackpot idea for that, or mercantile, which is so it's a bit touchy because usually, oftentimes rather, it will manifest itself as like gypsy stereotypes, and I know Romani is the correct word, but I don't give a shit really. But it's hard to say. Or like Middle Eastern bizarre stereotypes, which is like, eesh, which is I don't mind it, right? Again, I already mentioned I love the idea of trading partners. My favorite empires to write when I do end up writing empires, not something I often do, but whenever I do write empires, my favorite empires to write are trade empires. Because there's so many interesting things you can do that both aggressively and like supportively. Um, like consider for a moment like a trade empire that has access to not one but two peninsulas. Think of the sheer power that allots them. Unironically, think of the actual genuine power that allots them to have two peninsulas. Even consider them on separate oceans, right? The sheer ability to export and import would be insane, which means their ability to foster ties with other nations would be increased because they want access to their ports, if not even just for whatever goods they ship in and out, but because access to their ports, right? Which means the influence they have on the like geopolitical scale would be a lot higher than you'd think. Because if you want to run something like by an area, the established routes this empire will sort of have made are going to be heavily guarded and monitored and pretty much guaranteed to be safe. So you have to play nice with them. How much they flaunt and throw about their weight is up to you. But trading empires are some of like the greatest little like plot points that I think more people should use. I don't like it when it's the humans are the entire trading empire because that's just like putting us all in one basket, which is something that happens with every single fantasy race. And I'll constantly bring that up. But I think it's lame when the whole entire human society is just, yeah, they're the guys that do trade. I already mentioned, like, I know I just mentioned that, yeah, like having this is an incredibly valuable asset, but it feels really like, I don't know, fucking lame, I guess, to have their whole stick just be, yeah, we like trading. We agree, say that 7 billion Hitlers or whatever the fuck. Oh, I don't even know what that's about. Um, what the fuck did I say that? Okay. So, um, generally speaking, I'll ask that you don't do that sort of thing, whether either just humans are the traders and or humans are the baseline, because that's not fun. Instead, think of genuinely what kind of culture would humans foster. Because don't think of just putting modern day humans in a world with like fucking elves and dragons and shit. Think of if from the ground up these races were here and like collaborating in ways that aren't just like the different Homo species slaughterings of each other that happen in our real prehistory. And Neanderthals, which are were they Homo or Neanderthal? Hold on, I got distracted. Give me a sec. Homo Neanderthalensis. Neanderthal. Neanderthal. The lenses? The lenses. Okay, yeah, they are a Homo group. Okay. Like, think of these species genuinely did grow alongside one another historically and prehistorically speaking. Take a sip of water. What would that look like if they didn't devolve into just the Homo Wars? As in the different hominids. That's the fucking word I'm looking for. The different hominid, like, genocides that actually happen in prehistory. Look into those are fucked. But say that didn't happen. Say we actually genuinely did grow as species with elves, with humans. No, we are the humans. With elves, with dwarves, with orcs. Because it wouldn't just be something as simple as, oh yes, we ship bread to everyone. It would be a bit more complex than that, no? Okay, because think about it this way. I'm not the biggest fan of like having elves be. I mentioned a lot of times I'm not the biggest fan of like the tropes being subverted for the sake of subverting them, but ecological niches exist for a reason. Humans would be a lot more fucking arboreal. I'm putting money on that, right? Humans would be a lot more arboreal. We would be more instruction, really. I want that on record. But like, it. What am I really trying to say here? I'm telling you to experiment with humanity in these settings beyond just the typical plug and play aspects. Get inspired from real shit, right? Get inspired from actual events that happen, diplomatically speaking. Don't get inspired from cultures, get inspired from diplomatic events. Because that's how you do inspiration. And also get inspired by cultures, because cultures is beautiful things. But there's not much I can say with humans outside of just you're a human. Think like how would a town actually organize itself around a vital, fantastical resource? How would your main character like that was born in this world, not yours, react to shit like that? Our brains are the same. Capitalize on that. Now, maintaining the agenda is our top priority. If you want elves to be pathetic fucking weaklings that can't do anything right in your fantasy story, I support you 110%, as that is deserved. We are, indeed, to maintain the agenda on elf hatred because it is funny. How long is someone waiting for that one to come back, huh? But, what am I saying here for real? Alright, cheese underscore stick 1 deep lore time. Where does your elf hate come from? They are, in most settings and stories, without even meaning to be, the epitome of a Mary Sue figure as an entire race. They are traditionally depicted. No, they're not traditionally depicted because traditions are the Fae, which are fucked up. and not even like literary traditions, because that would be technically J.R.R. Tolkien, which had them as like very athletic, which goes again. But like again, I can't comment much on that world. Never read it, never watched it. Don't really give a fuck. Anyway, so traditionally speaking, I shall still continue to say, in pop culture speaking, elves have the lithe body plan, the timeless perspective on the world, have live up to like 400 years it usually is, if not thousands, and have a perfectionism to a fault, indulging in only the finest of things. Try the elf one, it's to die for. Yeah, as if dwarven spirits don't have more flavor to them, I'll tell you that much right now. But that's getting back into my genuine, unironic, uncapitulating dwarven love. Um, but I don't tend to like elves because they tend to not break from the stereotypes, which are irritating because, again, they are pretty much a Mary Sue race, where elves can do no wrong, they can make no mistakes, they can live in their secluded areas for millennia without anyone encroaching on them because they're oh so powerful and oh so wise and oh so refined. And really, these plebeians are there to look to for us to look down upon, but never in a condescending way. No, we only wish to up. They're a white savior trope, and I hate that. So I want you to break that. I want you to bend that over your knee and fucking shatter it, while still keeping them as elves. They still need to take a sip of water. Features and cultural aspects of elves. What cultural aspects of elves do I consider? I consider them to be more a more ecological mindset. This does not mean they are tree hugging, like warden, granola crunching hippies sort of thing, right? I fully believe they would allow a forest to be removed to make way for progress. I just think they do it in a lot more of an environmentally sustainable way, which means, get this, they're not really from the woods because those aren't as important environmentally speaking as bogs, swamps, and other wetlands. Swamp elves. And I mean that with my heart. Now, I'm a big fan of swamps. I genuinely love their incredible amount of biodiversity and the amount of oxygen they produce for us to breathe alongside the ocean. But that, ocean elves, you get into the fucking like mermaids, right? Not mermaids and tritons and merfolk. I took a sip of water and sirens. That's what I was looking for. Obviously, you can still absolutely keep the whole like forest dwelling elves because that is, a pretty good thing, rune smithing sort of thing, like talismans, pantheon sort of thing. But it's like the not properly research pantheons. They're a lot more a lot more simple actually. Simple in their complexity, complex in their simplicity is what I meant to say. I think that's about it. Um, anyway, but you could absolutely still continue to do the sort of like tree dwelling like elves because there's nothing wrong with that inherently. I just personally have become attached with the idea of swamp elves because that's cool to me. Because that is the true sustainable, true ecological mindset that we should have as humans too. Actually, look into it. Fuck Renegades though. Shout out to all my Stalker fans. Clear Sky's cool though. Rest in peace. I'm gonna stretch my legs very quickly. I was crisscrossed applesauced on my bed there for a while. Gotta let the blood flow. There we are. Where's my phone? I tossed it away, even though I was gonna glance at it occasionally and take another sip of water. Give me just a few more seconds. Sorry, pals. So, I reiterate, I don't like how much elves are a white savior, Mary Sue race in a lot of popular culture. It predictably rubs me the very fuck wrong way. I was gonna make a crass joke there, but I couldn't think of a quip that fast, so I just scrapped it. Rest assured, it would have been very funny if I could have thought of it. Believe me, because aren't I very believable? Oh, fuck, I could use a bagel. Fuck, love bagels. Anyway, um, so I obviously dislike that sort of fucking trope, and I want you to stray away from it. Not only because that carries some very bad undertones, but also because it's just not interesting in the slightest. Again, if because that's generally what we're like striving for here, preserving like the cliches of fantasy, as bad as the word cliche has become in modern times, even though it's fine to have cliches and tropes. Um, Preserving this typical fantasy cliches without making them boring, right? Without subverting for the sake of subversion that adds nothing to the story and is only a detriment when you try to force it and it doesn't end up working. Uh, Keeping elves true to their whole at peace with nature sort of vibe is very important. Just remember, nature's fucking vicious, dude. The ultimate environmental ecological niche is a parasite. Think of how successful mosquitoes are. Think of how successful certain like amoebas are, microbes, right? Varying horrifying parasites that exist in reality, tongue-eating louse, various genital-consuming parasites, which are most of them, like holy shit, leeches, other shit like that. They are the most successful ecological niche. So, keep in mind, nature's fucking brutal. These elves would not be above violence in the slightest. I know, Tolkien did his whole thing, right? That's very much different, but you don't have to do that at all. You can break free from the constraints, which I know is like ironic considering what I just got finished saying, but I don't really give a fuck, so take it up with someone else. What was I on about? Right. So, preserve the whole at peace with nature sort of aspect, but have it be a twist suitable to your world. For all I know, they're steppe people. Steppe, as in mountainous plains region, I believe is what a steppe is. Cossacks and shit. Mongols, whatnot. Tosses my water away and goes and fixes it because it fell over. Thankfully, it was capped. Not thankfully, I always cap it. No shit. Whatever. Fuck you. I was talking to myself, not you, audience. So preserve the whole at peace with nature sort of thing. Maybe you could get inspiration from real I don't know indigenous groups. Please treat it with respect though. Fuck me, like nuts wrong. Whatever. Yeah, I'm probably laying down too much. That's why. All the men know what the fuck I'm on about. Women are probably confused and a little bit like scowling at their screens like, oh, you're so fucking immature. Look, I was worried that I was going to go to the hospital for a second, okay? Just make sure it's all in order there. What was I on about? Right. Again, please be respectful with whatever you try to take inspiration from with real world cultures to create your fantasy race, because portraying them too much in one direction ends up having to be a very bad cultural fucking caricature, and we don't want that at all. So, but also keep in mind that preserving nature doesn't tends to not be as important, uh, generally speaking, in terms of the okay, take this sip of water. I'm running off the assumption you're going for an Iron Age medieval setting, kind of like the Western European Dark Ages sort of thing. Takes another sip of water. So when I say the Wheel of Progress, I'm thinking of the spinning jennies type of shit. So when I say keep in mind that the beauty of nature isn't really worth fucking preventing a town from appearing, I'm thinking in the mindset of towns are small, right? Small little cottages propped up around a stream, as opposed to a city which is a massive stone fortification, shit like that. Keep that in mind when I say these things. So, what is your whole deal? So,
Sorry, I was distracted seeing something. Checking my email yet again. Oh, there's no new comments. I like responding to those. It makes me feel happy. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Anyway, uh, what was the sentence? So, like, the preservation of nature aspect of them can be something you can work around. It's not something they just stonewall for no reason. Or keep them kind of ingrained with their traditions, but not unshakable on it. Things like that. Have a fair balance and treat them with a respect that a genuine culture should be treated. It may all be fake, but we're here indulging ourselves in the media. We'll believe it for the time, which makes it real in our hearts and shit. Like I mentioned something along these lines in the SCP video. I'm a little bit distracted, so I can't fully remember uh my exact phrase. So oh, I just got reminded. Rest in peace, lady. I love you. That's my dog. She was my dog. No, she still is my dog. She may be dead, but she's still my dog. My beautiful little baby. Uh, she lived until. Sorry, let me just pull it up and do a little bit of quick math again. She lived to be 13 years old, just 4 months and 10 days before she would have been 14. So she lived a good while. It doesn't hurt as much anymore. Anyway, let's move on now. Now we are to be talking about dwarves. Because I'm a big fan of dwarves. Sorry, I'm just gonna yawn for a second. Oh, okay. So, actually, I'm gonna finish off this little bit of water, this little tiny bit of water. There we are. So, so with dwarves, I love them. I am very biased, however. It's no secret that I prefer dwarves to elves. I've made mention of it many times already, right? In previous setting, in previous thing, in previous videos, that's the word I was looking for. Um, Again, it's because they are pretty much not the elf stereotype, which is all I give a damn about, in all honesty. But that's, like, oh, not a fan of these fucking. I'm not gonna reiterate because you already get it, and I'd bore you otherwise. Genie light comes on. Wish for infinite wishes. Engine explodes. Shouldn't have tried to fool him. I should get a new bottle of water. So we're on the counter. I don't want to grab it. So it's no secret I fucking love dwarves, right? Dwarf maxing, he knows shit. So why do I like dwarves? Because they have a genuine cultural identity that spreads across the sort of cultural zeitgeist that isn't the shit that I have problems with for elves. They have a very, like, in most settings, they keep their family lineage and those who came before them in very high regard. So there's some cool traditional and cultural and potentially even religious aspects you can do there right there for free. They, generally speaking, either have very staunch traditionalized values like steadfast laws that govern them, that they all like know keep safe and work to uphold this like code that keeps them and their family and their society at large running well and smooth, or they have a very progressionist like mindset, advance, science, tech, hell yeah, sort of side. That's usually like your two sort of stock dwarf archetypes, which I actually kind of like. I kind of like those. Granted, they're pretty simple, and I do wish for you to, when you do it, take some more nuance, add a few spins and twists and odds and ends and bits of metal. Yeah. But I, but generally speaking, I'm very satisfied with how those cultures, how those cultures end up presenting themselves in these stories. Alongside, they generally have and this is something I like, aspect to them that revolves around like crafting, smithing, be it metalworking or like gem crafting, rune smithing, things of that nature, or mining. No, and mining. I should have said rather. I'm very tired. I don't know why today. I took a nap, right? I did. Why am I tired? And I like that because it gives your story a lot to work with. Have like a very high value sort of gem or rune or MacGuffin that you need reforged. Bam. You have a culture to crack open from the can. Whoops, I'm fiddling. My wire got tangled on me. Just fixing that. You have a culture to crack open from the can, dump into your setting, and have people immediately, intrinsically grasp what they're about, how they tie into the story, and go from there. Now, that is very important that you have a culture that like feasibly makes sense, works on a level with a bit of scrutiny, and is engaging to read about. One that you can understand and see what the job of your average citizen would likely entail. Miner, smither, right? Um, rune crafter, like gem shaper, things like that. Banker, things shit of that nature. If I can think of Dwarven society and actually think of like where would people go for work? What would they do for work? Like how much would they enjoy it? Is it like a craft angle or is it like education angle? That's usually a sign of a good society because my brain will immediately fill in the gaps for me, meaning my brain will immediately fill in the gaps for me, meaning you did a great work setting up the supports that I can understand at a glance what the society looks like on a grander scale than the book is presenting me. And dwarves always have that down, which is why I ended up liking them and having them be my favorite sort of fantasy race. Because they're just good fun. They work. And they generally speaking. Yeah. And they generally speaking um, have that, again, cultural zeitgeist that I can follow from story to story. And it's nice. And then from there, depending on the genre subversions or the twists you have, you can expand upon that easily. Is this like Magitech? Then boom, dwarves like making automatons, things like that. Is this like horror? They dug into a cavern filled with things they should not have found. Things like that. Right. High fantasy, low fantasy, dwarves work for both. Mid fantasy, I don't think that's like a thing people say, but it works. That like a gilded fantasy. That's pretty. Dwarves work there pretty well. Grimdark squats 40k, Leagues of Votann, whatever. I know that's sci-fi, but whatever. It still works for fantasy. Grimdark, you just like play up their sticking points. That's why I like dwarves also, because they have problems with themselves. Like they have issues. Like, yawn one more time. Most stories will not have dwarves be squeaky clean, right? Everyone's aware of the xenophobia, right? The racism, stuff like that. And most stories have the gall to not portray it as like an amazing thing because, you know, common fucking I forgot what to say. Common fucking common sense. That's what I'm going for. Was it common fucking knowledge? No, common basic understanding. No, that's stupid. What is the word I'm looking for? Uh, so the fact that like again, just making more support structures that like actually propagate and prop up important aspects of your story. I dropped the bottle. Whoops. Don't worry, it's plastic. Uh, so nothing broke. Uh, so like having this culture have these issues that could be important like through lines for your plot is really good, and dwarves have always and will continue to be great for this exact purpose. And alongside just being fun, the stereotype of like the fat jolly dwarf is prevalent for a reason. People like reading it. People like dwarf main characters because they work. So keep in mind how you portray your dwarves. Generally speaking, need not diverge very much, and what little it diverges from should and ends up usually only amplifying and boosting the story for what it is, right? Depending on how you. Oh man, rest in peace, September 21st, when I dropped this whole fucking like small container of red. Is that mole? I think it's mole. Uh, on myself. I had white sweats on, dude. That fucking sucked. It was all over the fucking garage floor. It was all over the fucking fridge. I just found it in my images again. Man, that fucking. Oof. What was that about? Right. Doors. So, obviously, tweak them to fit your story, because everything can use a little itty bitty bit of beyond. Everything should always be like pulled and twisted just a little bit in order to fit your story, because it's your story and it will need that to happen, right? Because that's just, how these things end up working. I'm not looking for it here in my images. Hmm. Thumbs up. There it is. August 9th. That's still in there. Hold on, give me 1 second, folks. Yes, I did very quickly say every. Huh, nice. I should wear a shirt that says I Heart Suicide on it. I should also wear a shirt that says under no circumstances should you give me a cigarette, even if I really, really, really nicely ask for one. And wear that in public and like go to a party full of people I don't know and go, please give me a cigarette. Please, I need to smoke right now. Please, please, please. I'm not a smoker. I should just do that. Uh, I yelled again. Sorry. Uh, right, doors. Everything should be, you know, adjusted in order to fit the parameters of your story, because it's your story. I assume like there are important things that need to be addressed, plot points, things like that. I think that dwarves can really fit just about every single story, like almost wholesale, right? Because they're just that sound of like a race in the cultural zeitgeist that you can just plot them in the stories. I'm repeating myself again just to hammer this point home. Dwarves generally don't really have problems when you want to put them in your story. They'll fit pretty much anything. Now, let's say the elves had like a rivalry with someone. Uh, and let's say they were like the architects of their destruction, even like their main city that was reduced to like a smoldering ruin of ash and flesh, like knuckle deep in blood, like full of fuck, I don't know, orcs in this like orc city. I'll have to workshop that. So we're talking about orcs now. Who is this guy? Who are these people? Do I know you? What's that? I never delete any of the Discord friend requests I get. Even if I don't know these fucking people. I'm 15. Who the fuck are any of you? This guy's a pack god profile picture. That's lame as fuck. And I know you're a bot. You're fucking German. Who are you? Whatever. So, Orc City. It's this like city full of orcs. It was like burned down by the Elven King. He was like the architect of its destruction, something like that. Oh yeah, real quick. Okay, so we're gonna talk about orcs now. And I have some issues with orcs, and I have some issues with people who take issues with orcs. First of all, I want to make this very clear. D&D 5.5, fuck you for changing orcs. First of all, they got rid of powerful build, I think. Lame. Second of all, why the fuck are orcs now like a Mesk people? As a Mexican, why the fuck are orcs like my analog? I don't give a shit about that. I want dwarves, dude. Fuck yeah. Also, they just uprooted everything about them, made like nomadic, like I don't really remember. I remember looking through it like twice and being like, I hate this. I don't like this. So we need to raise more hell for how they fucking butchered orcs in D&D 5.5, or if you want to call it by its actual name for some reason, D&D 2024. Because I don't like it, and I think it's dumb. Also, why are they no longer like green? Now they're like gray and orange and stuff. It's just Goliaths again. Just made Goliaths again. Why'd you do that? So, orcs, right? This is a mixed bag with like a lot of mines in a field. They are generally going to be one of your main fantasy races and stories. And I don't know how true this is anymore. And we all know it used to be very true. Are we yawning again? Give me a fucking... Jesus, I'm so tired. What the fuck? There we are. Almost drowned again. Fought it off. This used to be very true. I know that much. I don't know how true it is anymore. But they're usually going to be your first pick for the evil race or the antagonists. I'm going to pause. I want water. Ugh. Had to pick up my head. There we go. And while I was at it, I put away my glasses too because I wasn't using them. And I didn't want to lay on them by accident like I do sometimes in these recordings. You'll know it whenever it happens because I'll immediately panic really badly because they're expensive ass glasses. And I already got my insurance provided pair this year. So, I don't remember what I said about orcs so far, outside of them fucking it up in 5.5. And something with my nail, fuck. There we are. What was I on about? Orcs, I know that much. Thank you. But what was I on about? So, finish a quick yawn real quick. There we are. Right. They'll be your generally first pick, first runner-up for like the evil or antagonist race. Because we really like in our stories when we topple an entire empire, regime, etc., etc., etc. So making the entire race like that is usually a pretty big way to indicate your protagonists being people of importance doing important world-shaking events. I get that much. But again, we went into the problem of unsubtly having this main force be just a caricature, and this time it becomes the problem of it being fucking lame. Because it would be a lot more interesting in the story if the antagonist force, it can still be predominantly made of orcs, however, there could be, and then you have to like tread this line very carefully because you don't want to like they're the good ones angle, but like you get what I'm trying to say here, at the heart of it is it could be very interesting to see the dissenting opinions on both sides from like these orcs, right? They can be a lot more than just mindless brutes who won't fight in like raw meat or something. And if you want like a race like that, with still like the what like tribal aspect for a bunch of like story beat stuff, like look me in the eyes, motherfucker, and tell me to my face that gnolls would not be better. GNOLLS, hyena people, a form of beastkin, sure, but also cursed to have a look into their D&D lore. Did Monster Monday make a video for gnolls? Give me a few minutes, guys. Let me just look up. Whoops. Bone Claw. D&D Monster Monday. I forget your account name all the time, but if I look up, there we are. Dungeon Deep Dive. I am caught up. Oh, he missed last week. Did he say something in posts? No, he didn't. Oh, I hope he's not like gone again. Did you make a null video? I don't remember. I know I watched all of your videos at least once. Kaordi, Kuatoa, Sibrax, Mephits. He did? Yes, nulls, thank you. 15-minute long video I made it a year ago, 4.3k views. It's a popular one. Ooh. I should rewatch some of these videos. I know like these monsters are really interesting. Anyway, we just yawned one more fucking time. If you're interested in having someone read it out to you, you can watch Dungeon Deep Dive's video on gnolls. I recommend it. His voice is very, very nice. I like it a lot. No, it's not the only reason I watch him. He goes through a little bit of it. I like him because he's also very like informed on the stuff he talks about. He even goes through it through editions, and it's nice. So like, I also like his voice. Um, go ahead. You don't need to use orcs, right? For that reason, gnolls are better. I fully believe, but there's a lot to be said for orcs. The warrior culture is one that's very popular and prominent. This I understand if you want them to be Mongols. Hell, even J.R.R. Tolkien did himself. They were a Mongol stereotype, which yes, I understand is a bad thing, but I don't give a shit because I'm not Mongolian, so whatever. But orcs were Mongolian stereotypes for a while. Uh, Horseback archers, vicious in melee, sacking your cities and just taking them from within, ideas, shit like that. It's the Gerblin army. Run up myself up, so give me a minute. There we are. Plug these in, making sure everything is correctly plugged in. I hope there are no audio errors. I've been watching the waveform visualizer. I don't think anything's off, but won't know until I review this. Yawning again, give me a sec. Yuck. Yes. There we are. So, the warrior culture is is a very popular and prominent one to like feature in a lot of these fantasy stories for a pretty good reason. It's pretty obvious what the reason is. And orcs are the very obvious, like, Bingus, Dingus, Wingus, Flingus, very obvious, like, host for that sort of culture. Because it just kind of fits their general build in the cultural, like, in the cultural view. They have a big, bulky build, so naturally they'd be pretty adept at being a warrior culture, no? Yes, obviously, it's a very clear-cut, like, parallel to draw. And as such, many people do. I don't, like, judge nobody for it, right? It's pretty, like, hell, I do it. Right? I prefer it. It's nice. Where it starts to be a fucking problem, right, is when you have them just end up being, like, a really, really bad stereotype of, like, African cultures. Wait, that gets bad. It gets messy quick if you don't know what you're doing. And most people don't. Hell, even I don't. I don't think it's wrong for orcs to be like more aggressive disposition, generally speaking, right? I don't know what is and is not offensive, quite frankly. But I can tell when something is like, oof, I shouldn't do that. And then I don't do it. If you're really worried if what you made is like a really fucking offensive sort of like stereotype of a culture that you are like trying to draw inspiration from, then fuck me. Then you should ask someone to review it for you. That'll usually help. I should know because I do that sometimes. If I get fucking what do you call? Get fucking responses anyway. Ugh, I need my fucking phones. Jesus. I'm laying down too often, a bit sore. I'll stretch later before I go to bed. Gotta make sure to do that, yeah. Otherwise, joints will lock up and feel real gross. But, that's how it goes. Stay healthy, you fucking freaks, yeah. I don't know what else to say about orcs instead of Orc City and other jokes I don't even fucking get myself because I'm not reading that shit. So, just bear in mind it's fine to have orcs be on the more aggressive sort of disposition, right? A culture that emphasizes strength and like keeping yourself at the peak it can be is a very like powerful one, very very good one for like the sort of setting you may be using. Just know when to rein yourself in and know when to listen to advice that goes, hey, what you're doing is a little fucked up. I'm gonna pause, I gotta use the bathroom. Don't worry, I washed my hands. So we're gonna move on from orcs. So I washed my hands at this discussion as well. A nice segue. Hey, thanks. I high five myself, you can see. So, cracks knuckles as well. Cracks back. Oh, hot damn. Fuck yeah. Plugs in wire, makes sure, because I nudged it with my knee. And cracks neck. Fuck yeah. We're talking about halflings now. Before that, I need to explain what I mean by wildcard races. So, a wildcard race is the name I have come up with when it's very clear the author saw that they only had like the 4 races and was like, this feels a bit too empty. Let's throw in a whole new race just to make my world feel more fleshed out. Wildcard races will end up being halfling, or they'll probably be an integrated race more often than not, but they're also pretty oft a wildcard race. The wildcard races will be halflings, gnomes, which are different to dwarves and halflings, or rather they should be, goblins, beastkin, beast folk, what have you, and lizard men, lizard folk, what have you. Oh, and obviously fucking mermaids, sirens, merfolk, whatever you want to call them. Satyrs, centaurs, uh, arachne, and sentient slimes, and myconids. Those are like the typical wildcard races I'll see. So, to emphasize more what I mean by wildcard race and like how little they're integrated with the story, how clear is it? Pretty obvious when they have like no bearing on the plot whatsoever, right? If you don't have an idea, and usually they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you know, you never see a halfling outside of home, right? They're so secluded. They never leave their towns. They have like no allies or trade partners or whatever with anybody else to justify why you've never seen them up to this point in the story." Come on, get fucking real. An entire race would never be like that. An entire fucking race would never have no fucking connections. Or close to it. Or very few, very, very close ties they never call upon. That shit doesn't happen. So don't write it. That's ruining your own world building, even though you're trying to quickly be like, oh, look at how much
I've world builded. Look how this cool stuff I put up there. Don't do that. It doesn't really fit. Again, not specifically halflings, just whatever wild card race it is. Or like be like, or the whole like, oh yeah, they're super dangerous. They don't play nice with nobody. They'll fight anyone on sight. Sort of ideal. Because at that point, why the fuck haven't they been unironically genocided? Not that I'm justifying it, but like, why haven't they? If they're just generally so aggressive and volatile that there is no point to like being near them. Shit like that. So halflings, it's another culture I think is pretty good, like prepackaged. Just with a lot more tweaking than dwarves because their culture never really emphasizes being part of the plot. They are a culture that prides itself on large, scans brain quickly, multi-generational households in their little burrows where they keep safe and warm and live happy lives eating lots of hearty and abundant food, ranching and farming and playing all day. Now, this is not a lifestyle that generally meshes well with having any sort of cohesive plot with narrative thrust, which is why I don't end up liking halflings mega much, because their whole cultural viewpoint race thing is just, hey, I shut my eyes and ears of anything bad going on and live in my secluded little bubble, which is really bad for the plot when you try to integrate halflings into it, because suddenly it's like, well, they don't do anything, so like, what bearing would they have on the plot? You can like mention them or something, but like they shouldn't be a main player because they're not a main player in most plots. Without completely shifting like what halflings are, because that is their whole thing. So if you're gonna leave a race out, probably leave halflings out. There's no real good hits to them in the story, unless you're doing another Lord of the Rings. Like greatness can come from anywhere, like moral lesson, whatever the hell you want to call it. But remember, that literally happened because he needed to leave home, which is not something he wanted to do. Home life is very important to halflings. So you would have exceptions to the general rule, which is, I don't know, it's like fine, but not my thing. So another wildcard race, gnomes. I guess I'll just go in order of them. So what is my issue with gnomes as a wildcard race? Fucking hate gnomes. They're so annoying. They are such annoying little fucking gits, and I want to stomp all their heads in. I want them to fucking cry for mercy as I've given them none of it. They're another Mary Sue race by pseudo-intellectuals. Gnomes are always the artificer race. They're always the tinkering race. They're always making little tiny contraptions and little automatons and oh, isn't this funny? They made a magical gun. Oh, how wacky and crazy, and nobody gives them any flack, and they're always taking your stuff. But all those cheeky gnomes, I hate it. It's so fucking annoying. I don't give a shit about your gnomes. They fucking suck. They bring nothing interesting to the table outside of making me hate any fucking scene with them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Please know what I'm talking about. Gnomes are so fucking aggravating in any story I see them in. To the point where I encourage you to straight up not fucking use gnomes at all. They are the most aggravating thing in any story or D&D group. I never play gnome. I never write gnome. Gnomes are not for me. Fuck all gnomes. Total gnome death. Goblin 2 has many of these issues. Unless they're evil fucking bastards, which I like. I like them as this practically primal, almost not sentient fucking beast creature. Something Goblin Slayer, I don't know, I've never watched it. I like it when gnomes are the goblins. Fuck me, I'm still on that train. are villainous. I like them when they are raising villages to like take their food and livestock and shit. I don't like the annoying fucking sticking point of you want all your shinies, me goblin, me want gold. You're fucking annoying. Not the culture thing. You. Because you're playing that on in D&D and thinking you're so funny and cute. You're so fucking annoying. Please stop. The joke got old after session 1. Find a character. Please, God. Which is why I revel in evil goblins that are like generally strange with like a voodoo or shamanistic angle to them. Because that's interesting. I hate goblins being this soft little fucking adorable creature. That's just shit. I don't like that. No fucking race should be like that because well, granted, I just like my plots to have plot to them. I don't like slice of life shit. Yeah, unless it's in small doses. Usually to frame a wider narrative in order to get a better grasp and understanding on these characters as proper characters and people. But a slice of life story, not interested. So, uh, fucking Beastkin. Diet Orc. Make them more interesting than that, please, God. Give them any sort of, like, fucking character traits. Like, what are some things you can do? Have them be people, like, dedicated to constructing great monuments as, like, a source of pride, or, like, hell, maybe, like, fucking going on pilgrimages or something. Like, make them be more religious. Have them have any fucking thing that is not just Diet Orc. Same goes with lizard folk, but have them stop. No, actually, double the fuck down on Aztec lizard folk. Actually, genuinely. As a Mexican with very light Aztec roots, I give you my full support. That's sick as fuck. You know why? Because the Aztecs were fucking interesting. Because they had fucking substance to themselves. So lizard folk just being rip-off Aztecs? Fuck it. Send it. I probably have more to say about wildcard races if I organize my thoughts a lot better, but I immediately sidetracked myself with complaining about goblin and gnomes, particularly like D&D players or like, you know, the fucking hype I'm talking about. So I'll leave this here and just bid you a good night. See ya, freaks. I hope this was of some use, and I hope you understand my disdain for the whole fucking. God, it's so annoying. It's so fucking annoying. So I'll see you next time. I'm glad to be back.